Hi, I'm Dave, welcome to the channel. In this video, it's time to look at this Pioneer charger. So here we are, the Pioneer charger Joker Street Racer livery. Now, I bought this car and I did an unboxing of it because I bought it was cheap. It came from a factory seconds outlet. I didn't really care what the livery was. I don't like it very much. We'll do something about that in the future, but what I was after was, well, quite frankly, a cheap Dodge Charger that I could use as a blank canvas for some things. I've got a couple of analog Carrera chargers, but I hadn't got a Pioneer one, and like I say, it was cheap. It looks like it probably needs a bit of playing with to get to work properly, and I thought it would be quite an interesting thing just to fiddle around with on the channel, really. Oh yeah, and I bought another one as well. I don't really like this livery either, but I've got plans and paint, so there'll be some videos at some point where these two cars look eventually quite a lot different and probably run a lot better than they did when they came out of the box. So let's take a quick look at this. I mean, yes, it's a Pioneer and it's got a Pioneer guide on it, and they're not brilliant. They slop about a bit. They fall out sometimes as well. The front wheels on this, it's a very rattly front axle. There seems to be quite a lot of movement and chatter in that. And the back, that sounds a bit chattery and notchy as well. And there is quite a bit of play in there. Let's just check the other one. Well, the front axle seems a little better. And the rear axle on this one seems a little worse than it is on the silver one. Right, let's get this apart and see what's inside. Now, first thing to note here is that door card isn't actually attached to anything. And actually, neither is that one. That's a bit odd, isn't it? But it is a second, so what can we say? You can see the movement in that rear axle and the movement in that front axle. I'm sure that's going to chatter quite a lot on the track. And I don't know, these guides, it looks like somebody was given a description of what a guide is who'd never seen one and then had to design one, because I just don't really understand that one. Let's get the magnet out of here as well. We don't need that. And of course, because I'm running it on my Carrera digital track, I need to take the DPR door out, unplug that, and this is the great thing about these. This is my modified Legend. Just take the Carlson chip out of that, swap it over, put it in, do the door back up. And it's just a plug. I like this. It's a plug and play solution that between them, Scalextric and Pioneer, use for obviously the Scalextric system. But Carlson have made it just a plug and play solution to chip one of those cars. Bit of oil, just to give it half a chance. There's an awful lot of wire here and everything sticks up a bit, so it is a bit of a fiddle to get the body shell back on. So yeah, that's it really. Taking the loose wobbly bits out. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it's loud and it's chattery. The tyres are chattery. Everything's chattery. There's quite a lot of wheel spin. Still quite fun straight out of the box, it has to be said. And especially, you know, just pulled the magnet out, did nothing else. It's hanging on quite well round the corners. I spoke too soon. But, you know, that was a fair crack. That was a fairly drivable car, almost sort of box fresh. So if we look at how it actually did, it managed to 6.690, which puts it, well, just below the Pioneer Legends and sort of in with the fairly standard Carrera cars, the Capri and the BMW, which, I mean, I take the magnets out, they don't handle great, but that's where we're at. So let's see if we can do a few things about this. Now, I should point out, if you really want all the tips and tricks on how to make these things run properly, if you go to Home Racing World, Harry Wise has 3 videos on really sorting these cars out, so they run really beautifully. I thoroughly recommend you watch them. I watched them. And most of what I'm going to do here is based on what Harry suggested. But what I did notice is, obviously, the front axle on these comes with a plastic bushing, but I've got the spare axles from my Pioneer Legend that I upgraded, which has brass bushings, so I'm just going to swap those bushings over. Can't do any harm, can it? That seems to run smoother already. Much less noise. I don't think the tolerance on those plastic bushings was all that great. I think the axles were rattling about in there. Now, of course, we need to true the tyres up. Now, you probably don't need to see all of this. Bit of soapy water, a lot of that.
One eternity later.
There we are, that's front and rears all trued up on the Swift Slots tyre truer. Now we need to deal with this guide. Now you can just put a standard Slotting Plus guide in it and it will be better than what's there. But it will, allow me to show you, it will still rattle about a little bit because the diameter of the tube that the guide fits into is a little bit slack. But fortunately, you can get on eBay loads and loads of different people 3D print these little inserts, and the idea is usually that you cut the guide post off the chassis you've got and glue that one in instead. But I think I'll have a bit of a fiddle around and a try here. I should be able to just glue this one in as well with a little bit of trimming and filing without having to cut huge chunks out of the chassis I've already got. So the insert comes with quite a high tube, so first thing I'm going to do here is just shorten it a bit. And just deburr it slightly where I've filed flat across the top. So now the little quadrant and the shorter piece of tube attached to it will fit snugly in the space provided and allow the Slotting Plus guide to be a lot more snug and a lot more precise. As I want to glue it down onto this piece of chassis that's here, I'm just going to use a file just to rough up the surface of the plastic so that the glue's got a better surface to key into. And there's a few other bits of flash moulding that I'm just cleaning off there. So pretty happy with that. So I'll lay the insert in place where I want it to be. And I'm going to use this EMA plastic weld, which is a solvent solution. It's very runny. You don't apply it to things and then stick them together. Just place things where they need to be, and then you run this. It's very runny liquid down, and it will capillary action will take it through all the little gaps, and it will glue itself down. And it literally welds the two bits of plastic together. It won't go anywhere once that's done. Just checking it's all square. There we are, that's the insert. Plastic weld glued onto the chassis, which has a slightly narrower diameter hole for the guide to go through, which makes it fit much more snugly. It's still a little bit stiff, still need to do a little bit of filing and fettling just to make the guide spin a bit more freely. Much happier with that. So here it is wired back up. As you can see, this guide will pass the Robert Swift Slots paintbrush test. I used some standard Slotting Plus braid because, as I've said so many times, I find it works really well on Carrera track. Now watch this. Really free moving guide. So we pop the axles back in here now. But I still need to deal with the chatter on this back axle, and that's where the bushings are moving in the chassis housing where they're clipped into. So just need those 4 points, need a bit of glue just to hold those in. That's tightened everything up quite nicely. I think we should end up with a much quieter, smoother car as a result. Another thing I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm just going to snap these little pieces off because we don't need them. Those are tougher. Watch this. Shot the camera. And at some point you can obviously shave around the edge of all of this plastic to give the body a bit more float on the chassis, which will help it handle a bit better. But for the time being, guide, glue the bushings in, true the tyres, some fairly straightforward stuff. And we'll try it again.
3, 2, 1, go!
Now immediately you can hear how much smoother and quieter the car is on the track. It's turned into quite a drivable car already. There's so much more we could still do to it, but just those little things has transformed this. It's easier to drive and a lot more fun. But of course I crashed again. So it is considerably quicker. You can now see it's up there with the slotted Mercedes and Alfa, and just next to the sideways BMW, other slotted Alfa. So we've gone up to 6.068, which is just about there. Sub 6 is what I call a good car. But I said I didn't like the paint, didn't I? So this is going for a swim in some alcohol. As always, thanks for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you'll find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it really does help. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video. And of course, check out this slot car channel.